Support recommendation largely passed with amendment. The chair recognizes the gentleman in where Representative Kirk to speak to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do not want to spend 5 minutes speaking on this. I will not be asking for additional time. I rise in opposition to this bill for one reason. It raises local property taxes. I support the concept of competition in education. I support the idea of scholarships. But we need to pay for this and not downshift the local property taxpayers. You're going to hear how small the issue is, 0.25%. It's $4,100 of local property tax increases that will have to be paid by our taxpayers for every student who gets one of these scholarships and doesn't attend your school. I don't know what it is for your town, but in my town, we argue about $4,100. That's a lot of money. That's one child. It is impossible for the school districts to decrease expenses just because a student leaves. We all know that we've been suffering from the decline in enrollment. My community's school costs are going up and enrollments are going down, and people scratch their heads and wonder why. Well, we all know why. If there are 20 kids in a classroom and one kid leaves, you can't get rid of the teacher, and the teacher is the major expense. If we want to do this, as I want to do it, then let's make sure we appropriate the money so there's no downshifting. We went through, you know what, in the budget to avoid downshifting. We've made all sorts of sacrifices to avoid that, and now we have a bill that says downshifting is okay so we can get school choice. School choice is good. Downshifting is bad. Vote no, red, on this bill as amended. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question before the House is the Majority Committee report. Largely passed as amended. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Nashua. Representative Holmes to speak to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 1601 is about school choice. It's about school choice for parents of limited means, and for only those parents of limited means who feel that an alternate school or a homeschool is the best choice for their kids. For those parents, this bill enables scholarships for independent, nonprofit organizations. These independent organizations may provide scholarships averaging $2,500 to needy kids. If a parent chooses homeschooling, the scholarship will only cover materials, about $725. So where do these scholarship organizations get their money? The money comes from businesses. Businesses that choose to donate to these independent scholarship organizations. This bill would encourage businesses to make such donations by providing tax credits. If a business makes a donation to a qualified independent scholarship organization, the answer provides a tax credit of 85% of the amount that they donate. So if a business donates $2,500 scholarship, they get a tax credit of 21, 25, 85%. So what's the impact on the state budget? Two things happen. If a student leaves the public school system and takes a scholarship, the state gives the business tax credit of 21, 25. However, the state keeps the $4,100 in state aid that would have been sent to the local school district. So the state saves about $2,000 for each student participating in the scholarship program. What's the impact on the local school system? For each student in the program, the local school system has one less student to educate and loses the $4,100 in state aid. However, to address the question from the representative from Ware, the school still keeps the local aid, which is about $10,000 coming from the local property taxes. So isn't this going to hurt local school system revenue? The size of this program million in the first year, growing to $6 and $8 million in the third year. It's successful. It's allowed to grow by 25% in subsequent years. Now, what does that mean? For this $4 million program, the average impact is 1/4 of 1% of the money spent each year on public education. That means for a school of 400 students, this is the equivalent to a local school district losing funding for one student out of 400. In the third year of the program, it's 2 students. The program starts very small, so it does not disrupt the local school system. Losing funding for 1 or 2 students out of 400 is well within the normal variance in most school systems. But what about high school systems? A high-performing school system might expect fewer students to leave this local school system, fewer than 2 out of 400. If you have a weaker school system, you might expect more participation in the school choice program, more than 2 out of 400. But if that happens, you may ask, why do parents want their kids to leave the local school system? Maybe there's a problem that needs to be addressed. Because if it's not addressed, even more students might leave the local school as the program grows. Other states have seen these schools improve in response to competition. How about the future years? Weaker schools may lose additional students. If they fail to become competitive, they will continue to lose students to schools who serve them better. So what's the overall bottom line? There's no impact on the current state budget. If you look at the next 2-year budget, worst case hit, maybe $700,000. More likely it's going to be the savings to the state, perhaps as much as $1.5 million. I call it a wash on the budget side for the next biennium and a wash for this current budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members' time has expired. Question before the House Majority Committee report, recommendation, widely passed as amended. The chair recognizes Representative Kidder to speak to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to House Bill 1607. I am not against school choice, but this bill, in my mind, is not the best way to strengthen this part of our educational system. This bill will establish a very complex education package. It will cost our New Hampshire some undeterminable amount of money for years to come. It will damage our public schools and will not provide significant benefits that I can see for our New Hampshire citizens. I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert on this bill. I'm not. That's part of the point. This bill is so large and complex, there are few of us to be sure that we comprehend it entirely. But based on my basic review, I see some worrisome things about it. First, the cost is indeterminable. It grows automatically and could become very large over time. The draft DOE fiscal note says the program will cost $2 to $3 million the first year and go up from there. All that problem Representative Ware mentioned, all of this is settled and is downshifted to the property taxpayers. The claim the program being revenue neutral is by extracting state aid from our school systems for each child that needs the scholarship initially funded by tax credits. When a child leaves one of these scholarships, the schools are hurt. And more when a child leaves without a tax credit funded scholarship. Schools would lose state aid right away, and they would not lose otherwise. So either the state pays or the schools pay. Either way, it's a losing proposition. And for what benefit? The scholarships go to families with up to $67,000 annual income for a family of 4. Some scholarships go to the 2,000 or so who leave our public schools every year to go to private and home school. Other scholarships go to children already in private schools, and these kids don't need scholarships to go to private schools. They're voters do not want this kind of program, I see no reason to override it. One further note, in my own mind, it would appear to me that probably alternate schools are more prevalent in some of the Manchester, Nashville, and they would be hurt probably more by this. And I would just ask you to vote against it. And thank you very much.
Question before the House is the Majority Committee report and recommendation on to pass an amendment. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from Rossville, Representative Hill, to speak to this question for the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Be very brief. This bill gives businesses a way to connect with the community through education. It gives parents a way to be more involved in their child's educational opportunities. It gives your constituents a product they rate as 95% happy with or very happy with. It increases the total amount we spend on education in this state. It increases the amount spent on a per pupil basis for the public schools. It has never had a successful constitutional challenge in any state, including those with plenty of money. It does all this without increasing the amount taxpayers pay, and from the state's point of view, will remain revenue neutral or even save state money because the average scholarship amount per student remains less than the state aid per student. Please vote yes.
Question before the House is Majority Committee report recommendation on to pass an amendment on House Bill 1607. The Chair recognizes the General Lady Ombudsman, Representative Ham, to speak to this question. Against the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, you'll be happy to know I've cut out the first, at least the first paragraph of my speech, thanks to the remarks of the representative from Ware and from New London. But if you remember, they talked about downshifting to property taxes. If you're in business, you can understand that hazard involved, as in a business, the same as in operating a school. The fixed costs don't go away just because the market or the population diminishes. At the same time, the district's costs remain constant. The number of students will decrease, and so will the funding from the state. So for each student who leaves the school to be educated at home or to attend a private or parochial school, the school district will be dumped an average of $4,100. And 4,100 times the number of students lost, and you'll have a deficit that the district will have to make up in the only way it can, through yours and your constituents' property tax. Well, it's been argued that House Bill 1607 will initially save the state money. That won't happen either. And it cannot be argued that the citizens of our state or our public schools will be better off if we pass this bill. In fact, as the program expands, according to the numbers provided by the Department of Education, by year 3 it will cost the state $2 million, and by some estimates that cost will aggregate to $100 million by year 10. That's not sound fiscal policy. And nor is this bill sound in other significant ways. As written, it has no provision for accountability. Students are not required to show academic improvement, nor are the businesses which are granted the tax credits able to be monitored in a meaningful way. The provisions in this bill are both multiple and complex, and for businesses they will be hard to follow, and for the Department of Revenue Administration potentially impossible to enforce. More troubling is the possibility and that the certainty of lawsuits should this bill pass. Despite the argument proponents give that Arizona's version of this bill recently passed Supreme Court muster, there is little likelihood of that same verdict in New Hampshire. Based on several precedents, in 1967, 69, and 92, our state has been explicit in not allowing tax credits to be applied, and I quote, for the use of the schools and institutions of any religious sect or denomination. It should be useful for us to understand that the underlying intent of this legislation is not new For at least 10 years that I know of, similar bills have been introduced and rejected by both parties. In the past, the preferred delivery mechanism was school vouchers. This year, the same result is achieved with a different name called a tax credit. By whatever means we choose to implement such a proposal, it remains in fact a shall get, a kick in the teeth to public education, and a hand in the pocket of the local property taxpayer. I believe that different as the philosophies of the nearly 400 of us in this room may be, the underlying motivation for all of us is sincere, to give New Hampshire's children the best education possible. As elected representatives of the state's taxpayers, our mission should be to do all we can to provide the necessary funds to do that. It is not our job to pass legislation that diverts public money in order to provide private or religious education for New Hampshire's children. I thank you for listening, and I urge you to please press red to make sure we continue to do the job we were elected. Thank you.
Maybe you for a question. Maybe that's not you for a question. Question for the House Majority Committee report recommendation. A lot passed an amendment of House Bill 1607. The chair recognizes General Greenland and Senator Tucker to state the question.
All families should have a choice in education, not just those who can afford it now. HB 1607 is a step in that direction. It will institute a scholarship program for families who wish to choose other schools. This bill can and will make a difference to families who want a choice and whose income is up to 300% of the federal poverty level. In New Hampshire, that means a family of 4 with income nearly $65,000 can have some help paying for their choice in educating their children. That's almost half of our population. We spend in New Hampshire nearly $3 billion on public education here. This program is a mere $4 million to start. Quite literally, that's a drop in the budget. There will be more money spent on education if we pass this bill than without this bill. And if this program is fully utilized, it will affect only 1,200 of our public school students of the nearly 200,000 we currently have. So if you support education and education funding, please vote green on House Bill 1607. Thank you.
Question for the House is the Majority Committee report and recommendation on to pass amendment House Bill 1607. Are you ready for the question? The bill for request roll call. Second. This will be a roll call vote. law enforcement for parliamentary employees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you are aware that the three biggest concerns of businesses wishing to locate here are our infrastructure, our commitment to education, and our high property taxes. And if you believe that this bill will take away revenues from our infrastructure and from our public schools and will add to the local property taxes, then would you now join me and press the red button?
Question is, the auditor passed an amendment report on House Bill 1607. The chair recognizes Representative Patsy for parliamentary employees.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you know, as I do, that this program is patterned after the very successful programs in 8 other states, including such states as Florida, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Arizona. And Mr. Speaker, if you know that the Subcommittee of Ways and Means worked diligently and long and hard to craft a program that improved on all of those other 8 programs, including provisions for demonstrative need days, for lack of to prohibit self-dealing, and to ensure the fiscal neutrality of this program with respect to the state. And Mr. Speaker, if you know that this program is designed specifically to start out as a small program, to test the waters, to see how it works, and to be sure it works the way we hope and expect it will. And finally, Mr. Speaker, if you know, as I do, that this is about educational choice for over half of our families who otherwise may not be able to afford it, would you then join me, Mr. Speaker, in pressing the green button and passing 1607 as amended?
Question before the House is the majority committee report and recommendation of the pass amendment on House Bill 1607. If you are in favor of the pass amendment, you'll press the green button. If you are opposed, you'll press the red button. This is a roll call vote. Voting stations will be open for 30 seconds. Majority of the committee on Ways